Hey guys, this will be video 10 for the how to design build a 58 Explorer replica. Paint it sapphire blue and install shark fin mother pearl inlays, and then either ship the guitar as it is or do some additional work. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to do some additional work. I'm going to be building the wiring harness for this guitar, including the Switchcraft traditional L style three-way. It's the low profile, like the same frame that you would use in the SG because they're thin body guitars. Um, I did this video, I think Saturday night or Saturday sometime, and I just got way too long-winded. I left it up for like one day or one night. So, but I deleted that video because there was just a bunch of information that was unnecessary in there. And I'm not going to start talking about it because the client and I are already aware of what was unnecessary. Not that he was complaining or anything. I was the one that just realized, oh man, that was a horrible video, and so I just deleted it. So, getting myself back on point and not being negative, I'm going to do the video again, but still cover some of the things that I covered. And what I covered was about 35 to 45 minutes of a fairly deep dive about the wiring harnesses and options for like DPDs, double pole, double throw switch work, and as well as like kill switches, Tessie, or either your old school traditional kill switch on off, stuff like that. So we'll talk about that a little bit, at least enough to help the client make some decisions. But for the most part, I just wanted to make certain that I redid this video to clarify why it was I even started talking about those wiring and options. And in case I forget, let me just go ahead and mention it. It boils down to the fact that Art is going to be using a modern Seymour Duncan SH6, which is the four conductor Duncan distortion. It has a four conductor wire rather than like the old traditional 50s wiring where you just have the braided shield the ground and then the hot lead in the middle. They call that a two conductor wire. But what Art is going to experience, or his tech will experience once he opens up the box, his pickup wires are going to be what's called four conductor, meaning the north coil and the south coil. The black and the white wire would be the north coil, and the green and the red would be the south coil in the pickup. And then there's a bare wire, and this is not guitar pickup wire. This is actually just like telephone wire, but it's nice to use as a demonstration in a video. So the reason I've got that tape on there, just imagine there's, even though it's called a four conductor wire, there's actually five wires in there, and one is bare, and that's the ground. And if you, once you have the four conductor wiring option, now you have just that. You have the option to do a myriad of different things with your wiring, and you might be, you know, soldering the green and the white together, the bare together, or the red and the white together, and things like that. So I'm going to talk about that briefly, at least enough to get you turned in the right direction so you can pull up this information yourself and kind of understand what it is that Seymour Duncan is presenting in these schematics. Okay, so let's do a quick fly. And also, before the video ends, I'll do a little bit of some mock-up, or probably a good bit of mock-up work showing what a Tessie kill switch would look like according to what size you go with. So that way, that'll really help Art determine, yeah, I do want the arcade style kill switch, or no, I want to go with more of like the, I think it's called the, I don't know what it's called. It's the one that Eddie Van Halen used on his Wolfgang Nelly. I believe it's called the Net. Yeah, Nelli. I don't know what that means because I've never installed a Tessie kill switch. I just bought that one with the hopes of installing it, but I'm going to throw them under the bus a little bit here. This was way too stiff, and so much so that I contacted them immediately and said, you know, what the hell? I mean, this is like a John Deere tractor kill switch, you know. If you're doing real delicate guitar work, this is too stiff. And the guy had sent me an email back. He's like, "Oh, I got the perfect solution." And I was thinking, no, the solution should be you should not list this as a guitar kill switch, and it was listed as a musical instrument kill switch. So I'm not throwing them under the bus, or maybe I did a little bit, but I was really disappointed with that switch. It's way too stiff. But the one that Art is considering going with, he's considering going with the arcade style, and it is the one with the lightest spring, and it's also the fastest kill switch. So I went ahead and covered some ground there. That wasn't really a digression, but I needed to make certain that I kind of explained why it was we're going to be talking about that stuff. Okay, so let's do a little bit of a quick flyby. The guitar, and it's funny because I feel like I'm repeating myself because I'm redoing this video, but I'm not because you guys have not seen this. I think it was Thursday evening. I sprayed some really fine, about 5 coats of really fine final spray, the clear coat, Nitro Cellulose lacquer. It's got a bunch of handprints on it, so it's a little printed. But in a few days, it's going to be ready to be wet sanded. And the way you can tell you're ready, it's got it's got a lot of smudge marks all over. But the way you can tell you're ready is when you can see a fairly good reflection like that, even after you just sprayed it. This has not been sanded or buffed at all, but I got a really beautiful reflection already. Uh, so once I go into my sanding and buffing, should be a beautiful guitar. Okay, so that's kind of your target. Turned out really good. I love the parchment against the sapphire blue. It's really, really classic. So just a, well, I'll say classic. This is custom. This because I've never seen this from that manufacturer. I don't know if they've ever done a blue guitar. I'm sure they probably have in some of their modern stuff. But anyway, I've handled it a lot. It's got a whole bunch of paw prints all over it. But I don't want to get the mineral spirits rag out just to make it shiny because it'll stink up the shop. So where are we? Let me check the time. All right, 7 minutes. I'm just going to go with it because I keep getting too long-winded. It may just be that this is a ton of information, and I just need to slow down and just cover it, even if it's an hour-long video. So let's talk about mock-up first. No, I'll have to talk about the actual reasoning for doing the mock-up, which I presented initially. Once I saw that he was going to go with a 4-conductor modern wired pickup, I realized it would be a shame if I didn't explain to him all of the various options that he now has. And I'm not being redundant, I know I've already covered this, but if he just was going to go with the traditional vintage wiring, I probably wouldn't have even said anything and just kept it real traditional. But since he's going with the modern wiring, let's talk about Seymour Duncan 4-conductor wiring a little bit. Let's talk about the north coil and the south coil. And let me get a pointer if I can find it. Okay, I'll try to make this as rudimentary as possible. When you have a pickup, you have the upper coil and the lower coil. The upper one is the north coil, and the lower one is the south coil. When the wires come out of this pickup and you're looking at a bunch of different colors, what you're looking at is the bare wire will always be ground. The black wire that you see will always be the north coil start, and that's the hot. And the white is the north finish. The green is the south coil start, and then it's also available to be the ground if you wire it differently. But then the red is the south coil finish. And then if you were doing series, okay, so if you this vintage style pickup here, this is called series. Everything is wired internally so that once this wire comes off of the pickup, that's called a series pickup. So it's the series link. And in order to achieve that with a modern pickup, all you do is you take the, I know it's red and white, and I'm going to look at it just to make sure I'm not confusing myself. Yeah, what you would do if you wanted to run your modern pickup just in series as a traditional, easy, simple configuration to work with, you combine the red and the white wire somewhere in the link, but it never gets connected to any of the circuits. So you would take the red and the white wire, clean the ends, solder them together, and then tape them off or shrink wrap. Excuse, excuse me, sorry about that. Shrink wrap them off, or the little heat shrink. Sorry, not shrink wrap, but heat sink them off, or whatever the little cover is, and then the green and the bare wire that is left together, they get soldered together and they become the ground or the outer shield. And then the black is exactly what I said. It's the north start, which is also the hot. Okay. So I'm not going to talk about that anymore because what I just said, if you don't understand that, just rewind it, listen to it again. And that way, when you go on your forums or if you start looking at this roadmap to do that, you'll see that's exactly what this is. Standard wiring for four conductor humbuckers, which means the red and the white wires get soldered together and taped off. Okay, and then they're just floating there in the cavity somewhere. And and then the green and the bare gets grounded to the back of the potentiometer, and then your black wire gets wired into the lug of the potentiometer according to how you're going to wire it. Gretsch is different from Duncan or Gibson, so just proceed with caution about all the numerous options that you have available to you. But I want to make certain that I covered this enough to let you know that, or primarily I say you, meaning the client or whomever is looking at this and they're really thinking about this. Once you have the four conductor wired pickup, as I've already mentioned several times, man, the sky's the limit as to what you can do. And that doesn't mean you should or shouldn't. That's irrelevant. I shouldn't have even made that statement. If you're thinking about doing that, you understand exactly why you're doing it. And I would say primarily it's to have the ability to either to do phase shifting in a pickup or either to achieve parallel, where you're running the two coils in parallel rather than series. That's a beautiful, beautiful tone. Just an outstanding tone. I'm not into changing the phase of the pickup, but some guys are, and that's why you would want to do that. I don't like push pull potentiometers. Some people do. I like just your traditional 80s centric type knob where you can look down and see if the knob is if the switch is over to the left, then I know that I'm running in a parallel. Or if it's in the middle, I'm running split. I'm splitting the coils. Or if I'm over to the right, then that's traditional series. I like the visual of being able to look down and see the location of that switch. Therefore, I know exactly what sort of tone I'm about to get when I pull the trigger on that versus this or that. Okay. Um, the way I designed this body, and I think I covered that enough that I probably shouldn't talk about it anymore. I don't want to spend any time talking about, hey, where does the black wire go? Where does the red wire go? Where does the white wire go? Because that's on the schematics. Okay. I'll talk about it just enough to let you know that if you've never seen one of these and you're looking at these six little lugs, where does everything go? It is so simple. It's so simple, and it's crystal clear. You might even be able to pause that and just read it. That's if you're doing a series split parallel, and this is if you're doing just coil splitting, which is kind of boring. That's not, to me, that's boring. And here's if you're doing phase switch. See, there's phase switching, and that's how you would wire it. Okay, so enough information there. Get your schematic, study that, go online, go on the forums, and knock yourself out. Okay, but the reason I brought that stuff up is now, okay, well, let's say you were going to do all this double pole, double throw switching and all that stuff. You got to figure out where to put these switches. You know, can you put it down here? Well, yeah, you could if you came in the back of this body and routed all of this out, you know, and had a more like a Gretsch triangular plate. You know, the plate would obviously have to be, you know, more of a triangular plate, but then that would give you the option to do a whole bunch of command center switching and work down here that normally you would not be able to do because because all the wood that's there. Uh, I personally like stuff like that, but I don't wouldn't recommend it on this guitar or just this design. But when I initially started building this design, when I started building these guitars, let's see if I can do this without damaging anything. I apologize if I've already mentioned this in this video, but I don't think I have. But when I did all this initial machine work here, everything about this location is historically accurate up to this point right here. But I extended it about 5/8 of an inch deeper down. So it gave it a longer control cavity so that, and I wish I had a switch. I don't have a little, I just don't have a little three-way switch, but I know that the L-type three-way switch, the frame is pretty darn long, and it's such that the actual three-way selector would be right here, but the frame would go all the way back to about right there. But the way I designed it is so that you could still squeeze the Tessie kill switch in right there if you wanted to. It would be right on the edge, and then you just push this. Well, no, you wouldn't. This could stay in its traditional location, and this would be right at the edge. Right, I've already engineered this. I know it will work, and there's still room for the frame, and that would give you the ability to reach up in this location to do the kill switch work right there. And the reason I did that was because I noticed all the last 5 to 10 years of Eddie Van Halen's playing, that's exactly where he had his Tessie kill switch. But he had a different kill switch. I may have already complained about this one on the front end. That spring is too stiff, but that's not the type kill switch Eddie had on his guitar. He was running a switch called the Nelly, I believe it is, Nelli, which I didn't know about that stuff. I didn't know the spring tensions were different in the different kill switches. Now, when I started presenting this information in the last video that I deleted, apparently Art had seen it because he asked me, "Hey, what about the option of doing more like the arcade kill switch, but down here closer to the bridge, so I can just reach down?" And Art, I want to make, if you're watching this video, which I hope you are, I want to make certain that I don't make any assumptions where you're talking about when you mention the bridge location. Do you mean going all the way down as far as possible, or do you just mean getting closer to the bridge location? And I don't want to make those assumptions because I don't want you to think, oh, no, what I really meant was right here, because then I can reach down with my middle finger and get really good access to, I don't want to make any assumptions. So please clarify to me, Art, exactly. And we'll talk about this some more once I get the pick Art up here, but please clarify to me where it is you're thinking about putting it, because I can take it all the way down, because wherever we elect to put the larger, because it's a 27 millimeter outside dimension. This thing's fairly large. It's almost like 28 millimeter on the outside diameter. So, but the internal cavity, I'll have to drill a small hole with a Forstner bit. It'll be a real clean, precise cut, and it'll be just oversized enough that if we wanted to offset this, we could, or if we want to keep it perfectly in line, very symmetrical, or I don't think you'd want to offset it in because then you get too close to your pickup. If you were going to offset it anywhere, I would say offset it down. But speaking of that, let me just go ahead and pick up the let me kind of show you what I was fooling around with earlier. And what I'm talking about is this whole, location here. We know that's where the pickup is. And we know the bridge is about right here. Let me find out exactly where the bridge is. Okay. So we see exactly where the bridge is. Okay. Now just remember that. There's your bridge location right there. Do you want this? If you were to go with the arcade style, the larger, and you pick whatever color you want. You could go with the parchment white and go kind of cat-like stealthy, which would be cool. No one would really see it. Or if you want to go hot pink, purple, green, blue, that's your guitar. You do whatever you want. I don't have a problem with that. I can provide that, but I'd need to know what it is you want before I ordered it. I'm a very symmetrical guy. I wouldn't like the idea of offsetting this, too much if we did offset it, but I need to know where it is you're talking about, this location. Seems like from a player's standpoint, when you mentioned the bridge, it almost sounded to me like you wanted it a little bit further down here. Okay. But just let me know. And basically, you could say, no, I want it directly in the center of the pickup, or I want it in front of the pickup, or I want it just behind the pickup, or no, let's take it down where it's directly in line with the bridge, the center of the bridge. Or is there a possibility you could go back all the way to the back? The answer is yes. I can take it all the way back to that point to where it's way, way out of the way. Okay. So on that note, pretty cool, pretty cool, pretty cool option. Now let's do a little bit of mock-up on what it would look like on the actual guitar. Tell you what, I'm going to pause and I'm going to install the bridge and I'm going to install the tailpiece, and then that way Art can really see what his options are. Okay, should be able to have a fairly good presentation here without things falling apart. All right, everything about what we're looking at, this is the traditional locations. That's traditional 50s locations. We're not going to be moving the knobs, not moving the bridge, the tailpiece or that stuff. Roughly, obviously, everything's just kind of laying in place. I do have the pick guard taped, but since that's roughly the guitar, the question I would have is, where do you want the kill switch? And I can basically put it just about anywhere. And you had mentioned, Art had mentioned, I can't remember if he said closer to the bridge or at the bridge. So I don't know if that would be very comfortable for playing. What you're going to need to do, if you have another guitar, play that guitar and then ask yourself, okay, if I wanted to reach down with my middle finger, because I did this morning with my Les Paul replica that I've got upstairs, which is just the guitar I keep on my couch. But as I was playing that guitar and thinking about wanting to do real rapid fire kill switching, I was wanting to reach, like if I'm holding my pick and I'm playing and I'm palm muting, would I have a problem going behind the bridge or in line with the bridge to kill it? Or do I need this up here so that I can stay palm muted and hit with my middle finger? I hope that's in the camera. I'm doing the best I can. That ought to make perfect sense. Let's not just put this in a location because it might look good. If this, to me, this is a functional item that it might need to go right there. And then the question would be, does that look weird? Well, if it looks weird, maybe we should go with the white Tessie kill switch and see, because we're talking about going with the arcade switch, which is almost 28 millimeter on that, and that is 28 millimeter right there. I cut that out specifically so you could see what it would look like. I mean, would you if you want it in a truly functional location, I need you, the client, to tell me, oh no, there's no way I want it up there. That's just way too far away. Or I certainly don't want it in that location, and then reverse the switch. Or maybe you do. I just want to clarify to you, there's things that can be done here because we haven't done any wiring yet that I could turn the three-way around 180 degrees and put the switch farther in, and then have the kill switch all the way down at the end of the guitar. But that might be way too far away. The only reason I brought up having it up here is because I was watching, Eddie play his Wolfgang, and for some reason that's where he had it located, and I don't really understand that. But in that guitar, the Wolfgang designed, he had plenty of real estate down here to put that kill switch anywhere he wanted. I'm not a kill switch player, so please don't rely on me to tell you, oh yeah, you have to put it here or it has to be here. I don't know. I truly have no idea. And I've never, I think, yeah, I have put a kill switch on a guitar, but it's irrelevant to this conversation. It was a different setup. Okay, but just think through that, Art. Think about if you're really, leaning on the edge of the stage and rocking the house, where do you want that kill switch to be located? If you want it down here, then that's cool. Yeah, I can put it down here. I can offset it as I mentioned if we need to. Can, don't want to get too close to the side, and plus that would look kind of wonky. But it almost sounded like you were talking about putting it somewhere up in this location. But again, I'm just being redundant now. So just let me know what it is that you're thinking. But again, as I was playing this morning, thinking about how would I want to kill switch something, that seemed to be kind of the location. Like if I'm really digging in, playing, I'm still able to palm mute a little bit, and then reach over here with my middle finger and go ding, 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 ding. Okay, but it might not be what you want to see. And I'm not going to offer any suggestions. Well, I think I already have. If you didn't want to, if we had to offset it, and it started becoming a visual minority rule situation, then we might want to go with a white one. But again, I think things like that are cool, and you might want to go with the purple, or you might want to go with the blue or the red, or they make a soft gray even. I really don't think any of the colors that you elect to go with on that would be a mistake, because it's kind of a funky, cool thing to start with anyway. That might get in the way if I do a lot of a hybrid playing where I'm planting my pinky on the surface of the guitar and doing like rockabilly finger picking. So that would not work for me in any of this location. I would have to have it away so I could move in this direction and move my pinky as I'm doing my hybrid picking work. Okay. And you may not play that way, but think about those things. I wouldn't want to put it in a location where you might end up bumping into it and killing it unintentionally. Okay, let me get that off. This is the one that I just showed you is the arcade style. This is the Eddie Van Halen Nelly size. It's a little bit smaller, so but I don't know the spring tension in that one. Okay, I'll need you to do your own research on that, Art, and let me know what you're thinking. All right. So let me check the time, see where we want to go from here. Okay, one thing I forgot to demo in the mock-up was the potential of doing something like this right here. Again, Art, I'm indifferent. I'm not trying to push you in any direction at all. And this definitely is something that I would recommend if you were to do the double pole, double throw wiring at all. That would need to be done by whomever is installing the pickups, because it just would. Uh, and then because they're going to be working with you on how you want that switch to be installed, the direction and stuff like that. And obviously, Art has never even asked about this or questioned it, but I just want to let you know that when I originally designed the the template for machining this body a couple, 2 or 3 years back, whenever it was I designed it, that was kind of my intention right there, of someone having the ability to do a double pole, double throw, and then see that's the historical location of the three-way selector, and then by reversing the three-way selector 180 degrees, it brings it in a little bit closer, but it doesn't get in the way of any of your playing at all. And obviously, if you want to get really um, Star Trek command center, you could have your kill switch right there. Even the arcade style would still work and stay in line if you're working for some if you're working from a point of symmetry. You know, just want to let you know that that's kind of some really crazy cool options with this particular layout. Uh, I think I meant, yeah, see, that's the traditional location of the three-way. And then if you put the DPD T switch there, and I'm fairly certain you can get a double pole, double throw switch that is a single switch, but you can connect both pickups to that. Again, we introduce a far more complex wiring design, and the question would be, uh, do you always, if you switch this to series, if you switch the neck pickup into parallel, if you're running it in a single switch, then it's going to force the bridge pickup in parallel as well. That may be awesome. It may be a horrific mistake. I don't know those things. Or it may be that all you want to do is just run the bridge with the ability to switch it from series to parallel, out of phase, or something like that. And I could see where if guys are really into kind of trying to capture the Peter Green sound, where they might have a double pole, double throw switch strictly on the neck pickup and switch it in and either have the ability to switch it in and out of phase, you know, so that if you want that Peter Green sound, you leave the bridge pickup standard and then you flip into out of phase to do your Peter Green stuff and then switch it back into series or parallel. I think you could do that. I don't know if you could wire parallel, series, and out of phase on one switch. I know you can wire series, split in the middle, and then uh, wow, I'm drawing a blank. Series, parallel. I know that with one switch, you can wire it series, split, and parallel. But I don't know if you could wire it series, out of phase, parallel. Again, that's above my pay grade. I don't know. But anyway, just trying to present some options here, not necessarily just for art, but for any of you guys out there that are truly considering building a custom guitar. That's one thing that intrigued me about the whole Explorer platform, because it was all of this massive real estate down there that allowed you to do a whole bunch of crazy cool switch work if you wanted to. And see, even though that's not in the traditional location, that three-way, that looks great right there. Unless you didn't have something up there, then I would suggest, well, yeah, move it back to the traditional location. Okay. All right. So I hope this is not a waste of anyone's time, but if you were to go with the L bracket, L framed switchcraft, this would probably have to be just a little bit further back to make certain that none of your wiring got clustered in there. You don't want anything grounding out, but you still got room for it. And obviously, you do kill switches back here. This guy's where I'm going with this is to try to keep you from getting into having to route into the body in an obvious location. Under this pick guard, you could do an enormous amount of route work and machine work down there. Okay, and it not be seen, and also not just from a visual standpoint. Uh, you're not affecting the tone of the body by doing a real clean, precise mortise cavity right here in order to receive the housing for the Tessie kill switch, because it would have to go fairly deep. It would probably be the body would still be about a quarter of an inch to 3/8 of an inch thick on the back side. Wouldn't be risking getting too thin. Okay, let me check the time. 34 minutes. Let me pause and collect myself and get a drink of water and think about how I want to get out of this video. Okay, I'm going to continue talking about the wiring just briefly, just because this is something that is fairly important. If you're going to wire in a Tessie kill switch, basically the little schematics here shows all you do is you take the white wire and you take it down to the hot terminal on the output jack. and then the black wire goes down to the ground terminal, or the ground lug. So if you've got obviously your output jack on your wiring harness, see how I use the vintage wiring to just ground there, and then I go over and catch the hot terminal with that point. So basically, the way you would wire in a kill switch, like if I wanted to wire in a kill switch on this grudge here, I would be connecting the white to the hot terminal and then connecting the black to the ground. Now, my question is, I don't know how this switch is working, but I have a feeling that in order to keep it from having any noise, it's most likely the ground wire is doing just that. It's grounding out the potential for feedback or hum. But then the white wire, what's going on in the switch internally, is most likely you're just breaking the connection of the lead. I don't think you're grounding these two out or anything like that. That seems kind of crazy. So I imagine that's what's going on internally. You're just disconnecting the lead circuit uh, at the jack, and that would keep you from disconnecting any of the circuitry as it's functioning throughout the guitar. You're killing the circuit all the way back here at the jack. So proceed with caution if you try to wire this thing in to the wiring harness. That's over my head. I don't know what would happen. You might end up creating hum, and it might be fine. But the fact that they're showing on their schematics, you need to go all the way back to the output jack. That's that's pretty. That's probably fairly self-explanatory. Is that's where you need to put it, okay, in order for it to function properly. Now, let's do something here which is really kind of interesting that I didn't get to talk about in this video series yet for this guitar yet, but I talked about in probably a couple of years back when I really first started building some of these replicas. I tripped up on the whole centerline balance of this body is off the charts. I couldn't believe how perfectly balanced this design was. And it made me realize on the front end, wow, I had no idea that it wasn't just a bunch of funky cool lines. They truly engineered this thing that once it got the wiring harness in and the weight of everything, for the most part, this guitar is perfectly balanced down the center line. Now, that's a Gretsch wiring harness out of a 6120, the vintage guitar that I've got upstairs, but it's close enough for rock and roll, and it's close enough for rockabilly as well. So we have three potentiometers, one output jack, one three-way selector, but we have an additional potentiometer. So we're a little bit heavy there, but I'm going to leave the knobs off. It'll be a little bit right side heavy, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this triangle scale, I'm going to wrap it with a paper towel, and I'm going to put it on the table so that we have a longitudinal pivot point to lay this guitar body up on and assess how close we can get it to floating and not falling off to the right or falling off to the left. So let's do just that. And then I'll kind of discuss my discoveries later on. Okay? I hope this makes, if this doesn't make any sense, I'll continue talking about it. It'll make perfect sense. The only thing we don't have is the tuners on the guitar. So I'm going to, obviously, I'm going to line with the neck, and I'm going to move forward. I'm pretty much in the center of the guitar, right? This is not trick photography. I haven't found the location. So it's a little bit wing heavy right now. Let's move to the right. Let me stoop down and look under the guitar body. Yeah, I'm basically, and I'm not just saying this to say it, I'm basically perfectly centered with the center line of the guitar. And I want you to look at that. I should have opened the video with this. It'd be pretty cool if we can get it to float. It's so close to floating. And see, there's no sense in putting the pickups up there because they're just in the center, because that's where the center line of the weight and balance is where I'm going with this. See how perfectly balanced this guitar is? So, on that note, I've learned from past experiences you can build a guitar that's heavy as long as it doesn't feel heavy. And it won't feel heavy as long as you've got it perfectly balanced. And look at that. She's just really trying to float. So this is not a heavy guitar. This guitar without the bridge and out the tailpiece, the husk weighs 6.24 pounds, 6.25 pounds, which is fairly light. This will be about a 7.5 pound guitar after it's all said and done. 7.75 pound guitar probably. It'll be well under 8 pounds. But that's pretty cool. And I only have to move it just a little. I only moved it maybe just a 16th of an inch to get it to closer to floating. And I'll try to just get my hand out from under it and let you see. Okay? So there's a lot more going on with this design than most people realize. And I think, if anything, Gibson should have, and that might have been some of their initial marketing on the front end back in the 50s, because if they came out of the gate with the Flying V, the whole idea of the Flying V, it's a perfectly symmetrical guitar. Everyone was heavily influenced by the modern jet aircraft design. I've heard Phil Jones talk about this. I actually met Phil Jones up at Gruen Guitars a long, long time ago. He was one of the first custom shop employees at Gibson, and the guy was just brilliant, brilliant guitar player, builder and player, and a super, super nice guy. And I have played some of his guitars before, but Phil was the one that was talking about how back in the 50s they were trying to capture the whole swept wing jet design, and that's what they were shooting for with the Flying V. And I got thinking, that's when it hit me later on. They were probably trying to balance this thing almost like an aircraft. And because everybody was really chasing the whole space age thing. So even though this was a funky trapezoidal design, they might have been providing this build here to prove that even though we can do alternate footprint, we're still perfectly centered down the center line. That should have been infused into their marketing, and it might have been intended but never got implemented, or if it got implemented, it didn't stick. So, and I've built enough of these projects that every one of them are always down the center line. And that's not me. That's not anything that I did. That's just the actual Gibson design. And I think that's why a lot of people say that, man, if you ever get used to playing the Explorer, man, you'll truly fall in love with it, because it's a little bit of weirdness at first because of this wing. It just feels kind of big, but it's a very comfortable guitar to play, either sitting down or standing up. Okay, let me check the time. 43 minutes. All right, if you're still here, you're fairly intrigued. I'm trying to look at the table and think about what I should talk about. I'm glad I got to talk about that center line, because I covered that information in videos 1 and 2 or 3 of the very first Explorer replica builds a couple years ago. And I did a lot of deep dive analysis of that stuff, but not much more than what we just discussed here, or what I just covered here in the conversation. So, I really can't think of anything else I want to cover, but other than Art is obviously going to have me build the wiring harness, but it's going to be, I may not have mentioned this. This is really important. Even though I'm building the harness per traditional specs, it's not going to limit anything that either Art does after he receives the guitar, or if he were to give the guitar to someone or sell the guitar, they can still build upon that platform of the wiring harness that I install in the guitar, which will basically be 525K CTS potentiometers, 3/4 inch long shaft, switchcraft, brass, brass. I'm sorry, I'm thinking about the potentiometers, brass shafts, switchcraft, output jack, switchcraft, three-way selector switch, and there's it's you can feel that stuff when you're plugging in the guitar. I can feel the difference of plugging into a USA switchcraft versus a cheap metric whatever. You can just feel the solidity, or when you're toggling between the three-way, especially in the tall frame. It's really pronounced. It's so smooth. It's so smooth in the tall USA switchcraft, and that's critical if you're in a hollow body guitar with a pickup that is not wax potted. You don't want a real clunky transition from the neck pickup to the both to the bridge pickup when you're transitioning, because if you're in a real clean amp with a real clean tone and everybody's playing real soft, you don't want to hear clunk 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 as you're going from you know, pickup to pickup. So the switchcraft is really good stuff. I like it and I've always been happy with it. I haven't used any of the Bourne's pots, but I've heard good things about them. So do your research if you're building your own guitar. I don't think you can really go wrong if you go with the CTS and the Switchcraft stuff. Let me check the time. Okay, so I'm kind of rambling here a little bit, but let's figure out how to end the video. I talked about the Tessie grounding and all that jazz, so it should be covered there. I don't know if I think I did mention I wasn't impressed with the spring load on this one. Yeah, it's way too stiff, but the arcade style, even on their website, it says that that's the fastest and the lightest uh, rapid fire kill switch available, because apparently it truly is the arcade switch that they would put on the arcade games. So it's probably I wish I had have known that, because I would not have bought that one right there, because that one's way too stiff. Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys dropping in. I hope I didn't waste anybody's time. And it might have been a little bit chaotic from time to time, but I think I was able to cover enough for Art to uh, give me enough information I need before I cut a massive hole in the body of the guitar, and a massive hole in the pick guard as well, because I wouldn't want to make that assumption that I like it right here for a player standpoint, but he really wanted it back here because he was going to reach down with his pinky or something like that. Okay, so let me know, Art, and the parts will be in by Wednesday afternoon, hopefully at the latest Thursday, and then I'll be building a wiring harness fairly soon. So the next video will probably come by next Friday night or next Saturday sometime, and then we'll go from there. Thanks, guys.